In a small town, surrounded by rolling hills, lived a boy named Brian. The town was peaceful, known for its warm sunsets and the gentle rustling of the prairie grass. But life for Brian was anything but ordinary. You see, Brian had an unusual best friend, an elephant named Josiah. Brian found Josiah as a baby elephant, lost and scared, near the outskirts of town. The townsfolk initially hesitated, but Josiah's gentle nature soon won everyone over. Brian and Josiah became inseparable, exploring the hills and helping the townspeople with heavy lifting and other chores. One day, a mysterious gunslinger rode into town. His presence was immediately felt as he dismounted his horse and walked into the local saloon. The townspeople whispered and exchanged nervous glances. Brian, curious as ever, followed the gunslinger inside. The saloon was dimly lit, with the smell of whiskey and tobacco hanging in the air. The gunslinger, a tall man with a weathered face and piercing eyes, scanned the room until his gaze settled on the local tough guy, a burly man named Hank. The gunslinger walked up to Hank and said, "I challenge you to a duel." The saloon fell silent. Hank stood up, towering over the gunslinger. "And who might you be?" he growled. "Name's Luke," the gunslinger replied. "And you, Hank, are my long-lost brother." Gasps filled the room. Brian's eyes widened. He had never seen a real duel before, let alone between brothers. The tension was palpable as the two men stared each other down. Brian rushed out of the saloon to find Josiah. He knew that if anyone could help defuse the situation, it was his wise and gentle elephant friend. Josiah was at their usual spot by the river, splashing water with his trunk. "Josiah, we need to go to the saloon. There's going to be a duel between two brothers," Brian said urgently. Josiah nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Together, they hurried back to the saloon. By the time they arrived, the townspeople had gathered outside, waiting for the duel to begin. The brothers stood 10 paces apart, hands hovering over their holsters. Brian and Josiah pushed through the crowd just as the clock struck noon, the signal for the duel to commence. "Wait," Brian shouted, running between the two men. "You can't do this. You're brothers." Both men hesitated, their hands still poised to draw their guns. Brian continued, "Whatever happened in the past, it can't be worth killing each other over. Look around you. This town doesn't need more violence." Josiah trumpeted loudly, as if to emphasize Brian's words. The crowd murmured in agreement. Luke and Hank exchanged glances, the weight of their shared history evident in their eyes. Luke lowered his hand first. "Maybe the kid's right," he said, his voice softer. "We were brothers once. We can be again." Hank followed suit, letting out a deep sigh. "I've missed you, Luke," he admitted. "But I didn't know how to find you." The two men embraced, and the crowd erupted in applause. Brian and Josiah smiled, knowing they had helped bring peace to the town once more. In the days that followed, Luke and Hank worked to rebuild their relationship. The town returned to its peaceful ways, with Brian and Josiah at the heart of the community's gratitude. They continued their adventures, knowing that they had made a difference. And so, in that small town surrounded by rolling hills, life went on. Brian and Josiah's bond grew stronger, and the story of the gunslinger and the elephant became a legend that would be told for generations to come. The end.